And the economic order, yeah, that's something.
Well, that was really exciting. Welcome to tonight's Seattle Christian Forum. My name is Jonathan Ederach. I'm the pastor at Timnath Church and also a member of the board for Together for Timnath. And so just to welcome neighbors to these events and also to welcome our panelists tonight for this great session that we're going to have. If this is your first time coming, we're especially excited to have you here and would love for you to sign up on the sheet that's being passed around so that we can continue to send information about the work that we're doing in the town and the partnerships we're creating around it. In case you don't know, Together for Timnath has a mission of advancing Timnath's downtown district at the heart of the greater Timnath community by promoting community-oriented economic, cultural, and social development, advocating as a unified and influential voice for downtown, and fostering an active, informed, and connected community throughout Timnath. So that's what we're trying to do through forums, through the work we do, meeting with council and other people who work in the town. And we have a vision of seeing the downtown district vibrant and distinctive hub of economic, cultural, and social opportunity that's celebrated and supported by all of us here, by all of our neighbors here. So just by being here tonight, you are helping pass that with us. So it's great. We are recording for tonight for the benefit of those who cannot be here so that they could watch all the conversation that goes on around the important topic of water usage in our town. And before we get to that, I just want to share a couple announcements with you. And I'm going to kind of work backwards, if you will, from October to nearest to us, okay? So in October, we would love for you to be on the watch for a benefit event that we're going to be putting together for Timnath. We're casting this as a sort of jazz and pancakes night, hopefully. So stay tuned for more details, but who doesn't like pancake? And maybe some really good jazz music. So watch for details to come on that in the Old Town area. Also in October, we're going to be planning another forum that will revolve around a discussion with some of the community and economic development neighbors that we have. And our hope is that by entering into conversation with some of the neighboring communities, we can better get some ideas for what we should be focusing our attention on here in Timnath as our community rapidly grows. And especially, I mean, if you drove in here tonight, you see all the development across the street, you know what's coming elsewhere. So what are some details that we need to focus our attention on? That's going to be in October's forum. Next month, September, we are not going to have. We usually have one each month. We're not going to have one next month. But we do want you to just pay attention to those things coming in October. And before August ends, we'd also like you to know that here in this building, the town council is going to have an open work session. That is, you can come and listen to the work session. And that will be on Tuesday, August 27th. And Together for Timnath has been invited to offer a presentation at that work session. So we'd love for you to be there to hear what we're going to share and hear what our town council and mayor will be speaking on. After that work session then is the normal town council meeting, which obviously you're also welcome to come to and offer public comment to.
Yes, we'll be looking the priority recommendations that we've gathered. And it's in that binder, attached to that sign-in sheet, if you want to go through and get an idea of what the topic will be.
And then just lastly, a reminder that Together for Timnath is a volunteer-run organization. And we rely on the support of community members like you to do programs, to do other events that we partner with or help to put on. And if you appreciate these monthly forums and our work to revitalize Old Town and to make that a heart for the whole of Timnath, then we would invite you to volunteer time or money or other resources. Or if you just like to know more, I would love to have a conversation with you or one of our board members. I'm done talking. Now I just love to welcome our panelists and also Dixie, who's going to be leading our discussion tonight. So if you would give them a warm welcome.
Hi, everybody. I'm Dixie. That might be possibly recognize me. I get to work with together on the board of directors. And to kick things off tonight, we have our agenda that Jonathan just went over. And in order, we're going to start with, we have Chris Fletcher, Eric Reichenheim, and Mike Chris Fletcher is from the Fort Collins Weldon Water District, Eric Reichenheim is from the North Weldon County Water District, and Mike Guy is from the East Lerner County Water District. Now, I really love water, it's what I pursued graduate school for, but even moving to Timnath 2 years ago, I did not know we had to be cold water suppliers. So I'm very excited for this. So to start off with, I thought I'd let each of them introduce themselves and they kindly provided some visuals. Just for short introduction about the district before we dive into questions. Chris, do you want to start?
Talk to you guys. Be a nice question and answer format, but I think there'll also be opportunity for you guys to ask questions and talk more about having answers that. Casey said, my name is Chris Fletcher. I'm the general manager of Fort Collins Local Water District. I come from the engineering side of our operations. I was a district engineer prior to being general manager. We have about 800 caps in the area, which is 49,000 people. That's a fairly big chunk. About 14% of our entire district. This is a significant area, but we have 86% of our district outside of Timnath. We serve 5 different jurisdictions, 14 in the city of Fort Collins, city of Loveland, Windsor, Timnath, and Lerner County. So every conversation we have in my district, we have 5 times with all of those different things. Like
Us. Well, next. Eric, are you ready? Awesome. And I also have my name.
I have a 60-page slideshow I'd like to buckle up. So again, my name is Eric Reichenheim. I'm the general manager for North Weldon County Water District. I just put some, yep, right out the gate.
Gotcha.
Yep, so I just put some quick slides together to walk through the district. So we actually are not very involved with our county. We were established in 1962. We serve 325 square miles for commercial, agricultural, and residential developments. We serve about 6,800 total taps in our district. 89% of those are residential taps. We have 200 agricultural businesses, mostly dairies and feedlots, also in our district. We serve about 100,000 cattle as well as part of that. And we have 7 wholesale customers. So we serve the town of Eaton, Alts, Nunn, Pierce, Severance, Windsor, and parts of northern Colorado waters. Oh. Next slide. So here's our service area. Again, it's 325 square miles. You'll see that we serve in Larimer County only about 5% of our district. And these are the towns. And just talk about water really quick, since we want to talk about water today. I just want to basically just go over where our water supply comes from. The majority of our water supply comes from water directly through a pipeline to the right between 10 and 30 surface system. We also have native water rights from the river. We also have native water rights from other water basins. Well, it's almost
All right, Mike, I didn't have the map here.
that works. It's kind of big for a small district. So on my side, been a GM at Elko 2006 to come from an ag background, grew up over here near Windsor and Sevens. Kind of did a mid-year crisis career change. That was important in the future for Colorado, the West. It's water, obviously. So that's what I tried to get into. I myself working with a small district, I didn't have a clue. I didn't know they even existed. I grew up in the Northwell, but I didn't know there was an East Water District. So anyway, I've been there for a little while. Pretty much the same story as Eric in terms of our water supply, but our service area is in the, kind of the peak area up here, and I didn't get a chance to really overlay Timnath's GMA or any of their boundaries, but you can see this is Timnath Reservoir right here. So Elko's service in Timnath is relatively small. Anybody here from Saratoga Falls, Kitchell Lake development? That's about the only thing we serve. It's a development within the town of Timnath today. But there's potential for additional growth along the west side here down around County Road 5 that will be served by Elko. If Timnath grows further to the north, more or less on the west side of the County Line Road, that will likely be Elko's service, but potentially there's some potential for Northwell service there as well. So our service area pales in comparison to the service area of Northwell. We're only 53 square miles. About 60% of our service area is within the city of Fort Collins, GMA, and within the Timnath GMA. So new growth for us is going to be urban, and it's within the city for the most part, but some will occur in Timnath as well. What else we got here? All our water is treated back here. Well, it comes through the through the project Eric described. Most of our supply is also CBT oriented. We're about 76% CBT, 25% Poudre River water rights. That's Elko's portfolio. So the water either comes from Horsetooth and into Soldier Canyon through the CBT project, or off the line of that red line is a pipeline we have to the Poudre River. It allows all 3 districts, the city of Fort Collins, the city of Greeley, I should say the city of Fort Collins, to access the Poudre River as well. City of Fort Collins predates us all in that they have other means by which to get water to their plant from the river. But until the late 90s, early 2000s, the districts did not. We were 100% CBT. So the PVP, or Pleasant Valley Pipeline, which is 67-inch diameter, allows us access to the river and helps us diversify our portfolios, which if you're paying attention to what's going on in the Colorado River, there's a lot of concern with what's going on in California and lower basin states. I'll let Eric explain all of that. So anyway, that's where our water comes from. It all goes through the Soldier Canyon Water Treatment Plant for all 3 districts, and then it's distributed through transmission lines to the individual service areas and to their respective wholesale customers. Elko doesn't serve any other towns other than Timnath, Fort Collins, or parts of Fort Collins, but we do have a couple of wholesale customers as well. They pale in comparison to North Wells, and that's a small Sunset Water District on the west side of Fort Collins off of Fort Sunset, Hollywood, and Vine. Anybody know who that is? And a part of Northern Colorado Water Association as well. Our current annual demands are about 4,000 acre feet per year. Peak day demands out of Soldier Canyon, which is rated at 60 MGD, to give you some sense of scale. The city of Fort Collins water treatment plant is 80 MGD. Ours is 60. So it's rated at 60. We have been bumping up against what we hit this year. We 55 once. So we just completed an expansion just a few years ago, but we're going to be probably looking at another one if all this growth continues out here. So our peak day at Soldier Canyon is relatively small compared to these two. It's about 8.5 to 9 MGD per year during obviously the summer months when everybody's irrigating. So that's probably enough about Elko and D. We'll leave it up right now. Sure. We do not. Chris can probably answer that question better than anybody because it's Fort Collins public. Million gallons per day. Sorry, Water World acronyms are probably part of our downfall. Something doesn't make any sense. Don't hesitate.
Description, how close to an acre foot is.
An acre foot, the volume of water. You can think about the area of 1 acre, 1 foot deep. Volume contained within that would be an acre foot. About 325,000 plus gallons. Other questions? If not, I'm going to hand off.
All right, well, this one I'll give it to you guys to decide who wants to kick it off. Well, actually, you already answered this. Where does Timnath's water come from and how does the water get to our homes? Do any of you want to add anything? CBT, Colorado Bay Thompson Project? Hi, it's a good question.
Yeah, so do you guys have, do each of you own the pipes? Like, let's say I'm in Chris's district. Does his district own the pipe all the way forced to, to my house? Or is the town of Timnath own it, or?
We do my best. So it's complicated. Interconnects and Northwell and Elko share water lines. I think Fort Collins, Loveland have some shared water lines as well. So even though we all have a shared treatment plant at Soldier Canyon, out Loveland, for example, does take water from the city of Collins as well. So your question is, does Timnath own any of the water lines related to the distribution to your meter?
Yeah.
And the answer is no. These are owned by the central district.
Okay.
All right, so we do have some questions prepared and we will, especially depending on time, be able to take some more questions from the floor as well. I think you already kind of got us thinking about it, but tell us about the Timnath Reservoir, the water tower. Who owns them? Why do we have it? What does it have to do with water we drink?
So I'll start with the reservoir. That's a great amenity we have in Timnath, but it's not connected at all to our bottled water. Run by the Cache Irrigation Company and the new Cache system. Not related, not part of our water supply, so disconnected, but it's great to have it there. The water tank that sits above that, that's got the town of Timnath logo on it, that is our water tank. We have 5 tanks around our district. We like the top of the hill, just gives us elevation that creates pressure in the system. And we use the side of it for the town of Timnath for their logo on. So that's what drives the pressure in the town of Timnath. As Eric said, most of the service area in Timnath that we provide water to, 90% of it is through interconnect with the city of Fort Collins. So we get water from Fort Collins approximately 8 days per week. And we get that water back over on the trail. So we're balanced out with the city, but the water coming into everything but the old town area is city of Fort Collins water that we buy from them and we distribute through our pipes to residents. So a little complicated, but there's lots of sharing agreements and And although we're three distinct independent districts, there's a lot of collaboration working together to make the water gets where it needs to be and it's accounted for.
Going off of that, Rich, let's stay with you for a second. Why do we have multiple water suppliers? What are the upside and downside of having a tri-district?
Yep, so when we talk about the tri-districts, that's when the three of us are operating collaboratively on something like the Soldier Canyon Water Plant. But in the Timnath area, we don't operate as tri-district, we operate as three independent separate districts with our own interests. We didn't all start in Timnath, so it wasn't that we wanted to have three districts in Timnath. We started in different areas and as Timnath grew, our boundaries moved into Timnath and now we're touching, we have adjacent contiguous boundaries. So it's like two adjacent cities that have grown closer together over time. The advantages are we're already working together in our water treatment. We kind of understand each other's needs and boundaries. Disadvantages, I don't really think that there's a disadvantage to that, but we do need to be aware of each other's boundaries and make sure that we're coordinating and not stepping on each other's toes, and recognize those differences in messaging or in interaction with our customers. Because we are the same district, we don't want to confuse that for us.
Awesome. This next question is for Mike. Now moving into safety, security, and supply. 3 S's of water world. All right, Mike. How safe is our water? What threats or hazards does the utility look for, and what are the warnings? Sure.
They, are you talking about the security of the supply, water quality, all of the above?
You think you can keep it succinct to stay within between the old goals?
I'll try, and
Okay.
I might defer to Mike. But the districts don't really have any, so all our water supply is surface water. It comes from either comes out of the Colorado River Basin and comes into Lake Randy, it's pumped up in the shallow surface pipeline. Like it's way down into part of Lake and Horseshoe through the CBT system, which is owned by the Bureau but administered by the North Colorado Water Services District. So we don't have any control over those watersheds. The other part of our portfolio comes out of the Poudre River watershed. And so, you know, we're subject to what happens in terms of snow melt out there. So forest fires, obviously a big deal. Right, wrong, or otherwise, most of the Poudre River watershed is burned. And so we survived that. It's changed the dynamic a little bit in terms of house and melts and we worked up there a little bit there some years immediately following the fires that we had water quality issues. We had major rain events in the summer months. You've heard them talking about the years, you know, thunderstorms that hit the burn scar. They were talking about it with the fire. We had the same concerns on High Park and Cameron Peak because it would drop it right into the river and shut down because it would take that. So the turbidity was so high, we had to let it pass, turn back on. So we don't have a lot of control over some of the water quality issues that are out there. We do a lot of monitoring on the Poudre with others that have the same interest. There's similar monitoring, I'm sure, on the Colorado Riverside and all the way down through some of the water that comes down to Big Thompson can actually. So we're participating in all these monitoring programs. We keep some handle on water quality as it comes down. So that's water quality. Security, you know, there's concerns about security. Obviously, since people can't fish on the dam, that sort of thing. So I don't think there's a significant concern about security of major, for lack of a better tax on water infrastructure in Colorado, but you never know. But there's not a lot of these little water districts. It's really Northern Water or the Bureau's their recommendations are. We do maintain security at our water treatment plant to ensure, you know, bad things don't happen up there. There's a ton of water monitoring and testing that goes on constantly up there to sure the water quality is as good as it could possibly be. And I think we've got some of the best water quality that you're gonna find anywhere. You're almost the first user of the water when it comes down. So, and then we all have our own security issues as well. Cybersecurity is always important. So we try to all implement plant on down, and as well as northern, those are controlled. The infrastructure, we all try to implement cybersecurity issues or means these days to ideally prevent or minimize any attack.
It's
Not a lot of rocket science in there, but
all right, and if you could pass that, Eric. Speaking of threats, one that has existed for a long time is, do we need to worry about the age or condition of our aging?
I think the answer is it's not. So as facilities, our job is to place aging. So these districts are older, they're 1962 districts. Your average life of the structure is about 50 years. So these at Northwell, not speaking of Northwell, we have a replacement program implemented to start looking at this aging infrastructure, particularly on our larger transmission lines. So we've modified, replaced 2 large transmission lines, multiple distribution lines. We have programs in place every year to start replacing at least 3 or 4 long lines. So I think, in my opinion, most utilities have issues related to aging infrastructure and the cash flow rates required to fix that aging. Just to be frank. Any utility, at least I know of in this area.
Yeah, the same issues for us. In the Timnath area, there's a lot of new growth, so Timnath itself is fairly new for pipes. But the old town Timnath area and the rest of our system goes back to the 1960s, so it's 60, 70 years old in some part. We have a regular program of identifying those pipes need replacement, planning projects. We have a lot of construction happening right now, so if we drive through Fort Collins, probably going to hit some of our construction. We apologize for that. But not so much that we won't do those improvements. The alternative being line breaks and system failures that can't be controlled. We do think that it's important to have that plan, build the rate structure necessary. It is a challenge. Construction costs are going through the roof, and yet our infrastructure still needs to be replaced. We're trying to be as cautious on our funding as we can, but building those rates allow us to maintain the old part of our system are essential.
you guys covered pretty well. I think it's helpful. Pretty much. Outside.
Awesome. So you can pass the mic back to Chris. This might have been the eye catcher on the flyer for tonight's forum. But we had a notice about watering restrictions back in June. So the first question probably on everyone's mind is why? Why is it necessary, and were there specific unforeseen events that brought this about? I will say they have a lovely FAQs page, but it's always nice to hear.
Yeah, the first thing to say is that this is our issue. This is not everybody's issue. So this is where Fort Collins Alderman carries our involved with this. We had an excess demand that exceeded our supply into the area. There were some unforeseen circumstances that caused that, and I'll talk about that. It resulted in an initial notice district-wide to try and balance the load out. We initially saw that we were having high demands on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, but not on Tuesday and Thursday. So we said, first of all, let's see if we can average that out, solve the problem by just averaging between the days. That was the first notice. As we began to study the issue, what we were seeing was that demand exceeded our supply. That couldn't keep our tanks adequately full of water. Our tanks were getting dangerously low where it was impacting pressure in the system, and also impacting our ability to provide fire load tanks, something we provide free of charge to the fire district, but we need to maintain a certain amount of water in our tanks to do that. Water. while we were struggling with keeping our tank full, Northwell was gracious enough to back us up with temporary emergency water until we got our act together, figured out what was happening. And our customers were able to respond as well to these messages. The unforeseen issues that happened were that there's Timnath Lakes development that was building a new phase of houses. They had a whole block of houses start their lawn and landscaping all at the same time, June 6th or 7th, watering 24 hours a day, which is more than the normal established lawns require, but that's what it takes to get lawn started. At the same time as they had some green space areas that they were starting to see stretch and watering that 24 hours a day. At the same time as we hit the first 95-degree days. And we also had what we call hydrant meters, where we will rent water from a fire hydrant, put a meter on that, and back flow preventer. And there were 2 non-potable systems that were not functioning, that were renting water from us at the same time. So we had a number of issues that we needed to address. We did a number of different things to address them. We immediately suspended those hydrant meters. That took a major load off our system. And those users were very cooperative. They understood the issue, and they worked with us to come up with a solution. We coordinated with the developer of Timnath Lakes to defer some of their landscaping, so they asked the new houses that were starting to stop. They did that. They also deferred a whole landscape area that they were going to start in June. They deferred that until after the 1st of September. That was very helpful. The other thing that we had in the works for the past 3 or 4 years is a 24-inch transmission line from our supply from the city of Fort Collins through Timnath Parkway up to our tank. And as Timnath Lakes would build 1/7 of the project of the housing, they would build 1 piece of the pipe. Another piece of the project and houses, another piece of the pipe. But the pipe didn't connect to our tank until the very last phase. We expected that to be completed before summertime this year, and it had about a 60 to 90-day delay. That was the unforeseen event that, as a short-term issue, we knew we were on track, but it didn't happen ahead of peak demand. It's going to happen in August or other construction. So we knew we had a solution in place. We knew it was temporary. That's why we didn't immediately stop selling tap, because it takes 2 years for that action to reduce demand. We need to reduce demand in a day or 2. Things. So we did that. As I said, we pulled the hydrant meters. We asked our customers to reduce. That was very effective. We really appreciate our customers respond when we ask. We try to be as clear and specific as we can, and our customers do respond. And we understand that that's not perfect. There are customers who don't want to reduce their water use. We get that. But on average, overall, did get a good response there. And we also did some tune-ups on things in our system. We were able to increase the amount of flow that we got from our connection to Fort Collins. And that also made a big difference. So that's what's gotten us through the summer. We're stable, we're in good shape, and we expect to lift those restrictions on schedule versus the question.
Yeah, I understand all that, but I guess so unfortunately, what you have to do is drive up and down Harmony, and you know the development, the sod plant. It was all, to me, very steep. So how can you say that watering of the sod and all the development is unforeseen? I mean, we've only been here 4 years. I don't recognize the place from when we first moved here. How could that not have been foreseen?
And it's not that we didn't foresee houses having sod. It's a whole block of houses and a natural area all irrigating 24 hours a day continuously. That peak demand was what we didn't expect. Normally it's staggered. A few start at a time and we can manage that. But this happened all at once at a scale that was quite a surprise.
So do you coordinate with the developers in the town? I mean, someone should have given someone a heads up of, this is what we're doing. You as a utility should know that, so that you're not caught short and unaware of it. I mean, to me, it was like, should have been foreseen. Anyone driving up and down Harmony could see.
As we've debriefed with the town, one of the discussions is that we do have control points on when development happens, when building permits are pulled, there's coordination there. But we don't have a process for when sod and landscaping are started. So that's something that we're learning through this process, that Perhaps we do need to have another gate in the system to control when it's starts, which is a different decision point than when you start a house construction or foundation. Currently, when someone gets a building permit, they get their water tap, they start the construction process, but we don't have control over when they decide to start their landscape. That's up to the developer or the landscaper. In this case, a number of them all started at the same time with the same developer. But that's something that we're under discussion about, maybe having further timeline check in on that.
One of the things that will water grass, and landscaping, in the middle of a thunderstorm or immediately after a thunderstorm. And in many places where water is scarce and, needs to be conserved, there are systems in place that monitor the weather or monitor the soil moisture, rainfall, and will not water when the conditions indicate that watering isn't needed. And the town is kind of hamstrung here. You guys as water suppliers might be able to have more of the impact on your users, the large users, if you instituted some sort of water weather monitoring for landscaping, at least for the potable water systems that are used for landscaping, just a suggestion.
Right. We certainly endorse smart water meters, smart irrigation controllers for that purpose. They monitor the weather and the evapotranspiration rate. That's up to individuals to adopt if you want. But in those HOA or metro district areas, Timnath is fortunate that it has a lot of non-potable systems. And those systems are not subject to our delivery of water. It's much more cost effective or local based water system. And so they're not subject to our water restrictions, but they're not well labeled. So as a resident, which areas are irrigated with non-potable water and which are irrigated with potable water. We do understand that there are areas that legitimately did not need to do any kind of restriction. They have their own supply, but that's confusing. The other challenge, which is, I think, common to all three of us, the special districts, we don't have enforcement power. We don't have a court process, site, so we do our best to engage with our customers and request water restrictions, but we don't have a way to enforce it. We don't have a fine structure. So our relationship with our customers is really the best thing that we can leverage capacity, but we don't have a way to cite or fine or force someone to do that. If it's egregious, we talk with them. In fact, in our water restrictions, we make individual calls, HOAs, the landscape contractors, the home builders, any significant group or organization, in addition to the mailers and individual customers, to explain the situation, provide contacts, answer questions, doing as much as we can with outreach to get that message out there. But we understand that some areas, for whatever reason, choose not to apply. Sometimes HOAs choose to find people who are following, and that's frustrating to us. We've reached out to them individually. We've talked to all the HOAs. They have the information. But sometimes they choose not to act.
So there's no fines in all districts, or some districts are do fining. I know in other states, they do fine when they go into restrictions.
Right.
So how come they can and you can't?
We're organized. I will 32 districts all over by statute. In that governance structure, we don't have or yeah, municipalities are different. They might have code enforcement. They own the land use code. They have municipal police that they or code enforcement that they use.
So if Timnath city decided it's getting.
And we did talk about that with the town and we wanted to see what response we got. The response was adequate to solve the need. So we didn't go that far with the town, but we would have had to partner with the town for that type.
So is this gonna repeat next hurt in the feet.
We do not believe so. We believe that the improvements that we've done, both the transmission pipe, the removal of temporary support for non-potable systems, and the tune-up of our system will resolve this issue. We do not expect to be back in.
So it's for all three of you, but. Take the town of Timnath and you say, okay, I'm gonna put in this density of houses. Or this density of taps, run that out to 5 years. Is the tank enough, or is it gonna take an added tank to be added, or do we? Fresh or something?
Yep, so
So is that the next?
we do long-range planning, which takes our current tap counts, looks at growth potential, looks at timing of that growth, looks at our entire system. We are planning improvements. They aren't always in the exact geographic area. One of those improvements is an additional tank on the west side of our system, on Trophy Road, behind the Homes landfill. Another improvement that we've got is we're planning a new water treatment plant, which will have tanks of storage that will be near Cobble Lake, which is about 7 miles north, and will connect into Timnath to provide additional support there. So we are looking at those long-range options. The tank is, the piping is under construction. The small tank will be a year out, and then the water plant is under design and will turn schedule, but it's 2 to 3 years out. Yes, we have plans in place for the funding. Some of that is cash funding, some of it is finance.
Okay, folks, I really love your engagement, but we do have a few more questions to get through, if that's all right. Good job, Chris. I'm gonna give you a break if you don't mind passing the mic over to Eric. Eric, this might be a little bit of a tough question, but we've been talking about water supply, and it was touched on quite a bit by all of you. I think about steps you're taking to preserve, protect, and extend potable water supply, but will Timnath actually increase water supply in the 5 years?
Well, that's a tough question because I'm not sure what is meant by Timnath's water supply. You mean the water supply that the developers bring to the district or the district's purchase for the new development that occurs in Timnath?
You mind explaining the difference between the two? You said water developers bring.
Well, you're saying Timnath's water supply. So Timnath itself is water supply. What occurs is the developer will look at a development, special district plan. Previous dedication to Swing Water that we treated soldier cave development, or the districts might own the water and buy the water. Okay. Methods water is brought. From that, then the water is supplied to that development that is Timnath, that would be what is supplied to Timnath.
Did everybody get that? Okay. Do you want to pass the mic to Mike? All right, Mike, this will be an easier one, hopefully. What are some applications potable water is commonly used for that don't actually require potable water?
Obviously, about 50% of water used on it's quite a typical. If you have the luxury or supply, that to me is the single largest use of water, potable treated water that could be otherwise. That need to be provided. Now it's kind of location dependent, not all new development. Depending upon their proximity to, typically it was ag irrigation of some form, whether that's irrigation wells, groundwater, or surface water delivered through some of the local ditch systems or reservoirs. So that's my answer to that question. I mean, there may be others, but that's the largest one I
now I can give you another question. Yeah,
I'm not good, like. You can try. What do we have?
I think each district will have to see for themselves on that question. Elko only provides service currently to one development within Timnath. There's some other older homes out there that we provide service to that were not necessarily part of the development, but Saratoga Falls, Kitchell Lake, I mentioned that earlier. They have a non-potable supply. If you know where that development's located up on the northeast side of Prospect, east of County Road 5, south of Highway 14. It's been developed in 3 filings or phases, you might say. They have access to Kitchell Lake. There's a number of different water rights that they have. They've got quite a diverse portfolio of different water rights they can use. They have a irrigation well. They have water out of the farmer well canal system into that lake. Also, what's called a seep right. It's water that seeps. They can claim credit for, so they can utilize all those. It's a county nightmare because we have to make sure that water is used for the DWR, Division of Water Resources, rules and regs, which is a challenge with metro districts and or HOAs because they're ultimately the ones that started it on the way off the rail. But that development is 3 filings, 3 phases over a number of years. First filing, they only use the non-potable for the common areas, not the individual. So, pretty straightforward. Filings 2 and 3, they're irrigating not only the common areas, the parks, the green areas, but they're also irrigating the lots with that. So it reduces their potable requirements significantly. But the flip side is somebody's got to take care of that. It's a dual system. You effectively have 2 water utilities in the ground out there. You have the blue pipe, which is us, that's potable. You have the purple pipe, which is the non-pot stuff. And somebody has to ensure that thing is maintained over all those years. Get the water rights are in place. Those are some of the challenges that we're seeing with metro districts and these ways, because it's not just a small thing. It's significant because if you don't do it right, potentially the DWR could access to water rights. That's way off track there, but I don't know if that answered your question.
and when you say accounting, are you talking about water budget accounting or money accounting?
Water budget, water rights account. That's a whole other.
It's water.
You have to account for where the water is used and what volumes are used, how long you can store it, and there's a whole graph that turn it over to the state. They have to review it, keep track of it as well.
So, if our street, some kind of sewer, how many communities are taking that water, taking that was drinkable water that went into some high street, at least water their common land? Is anybody doing that, or is it just going, I mean, where did it go?
Typically, it goes back to the river. Ultimately. I don't know.
Wastewater reuse, but stormwater district directly to the river.
Right. So I mean,
Nobody's really taking advantage. It's running around the street in a HOA, let's.
water
And it could be doing all the common stuff, see, HOA part.
Eric indicated it could be water rights. Well, Colorado water law, very rights. Both are very diverse, allows a lot of things to happen. It's complicated. Somebody else is entitled to that water downstream. Although if it's the treated water, it's potable water, that's big enough. To be complex, like this, some downstream. Maybe to really fix it up, irrigates. That's anything.
Better overall. Overall, if the HOA did water, curb gutter and the sidewalk, because those aren't gonna grow. And eventually, they get out, we get water. They can out how to feed it up.
Well, some of the landscape design, not necessarily due to irrigation of the strip. The strip is 3 feet wide, 1,000 feet long, 3 irrigated sprinklers. You're gonna get some overspray. We get involved. We don't have any land use authority whatsoever. We don't approve these landscape. Those are approved by others. We really look at those demands, figure out what the point water required. For your account can get plugged in.
In our next section, and we can start with you. Actually, this is one of the questions where I think we appreciate the response from each of you. Where do the roles and responsibilities of your utility end and then how does Timnath's role begin in water management?
Mike basically stated the most obvious answers. Again, we're supplying demands that other entities develop review are. So we're just taking utility reports to make this much, we have to be this. That's basically our report. I will say though, I think I answered that question. One thing that we can do, incentivize costs. So in Northville anyway, doing our best to advise people help. So looking at our total costs, generating cost of service studies and CFPs, we have what's this infrastructure cost in the future, setting plan investments and rates to that. Developers see these costs, they can get cheaper lots from us as far as meters because the costs are higher. That will incentivize potable systems, not use Asian water potable systems because it decreases their costs. That is something that we are doing. So we have one development in the potable system, and then we have other developers looking at the area due to the costs of our meters. They're saying we let us have that.
Yeah. Severance that all because of fire have non-potable systems.
I live in a metro district. I didn't know what a metro district was. I live in one and, you know, like, so we have to ask permission by listeners. That we submit our landscape. Yeah, we submitted our landscape plans. We can have a smart sprinkler system that filed in. And I like anticipated like these, so many people just like wake up. It's like I realized that depending on your interpretation, basically telling smart sprinklers. they're also stalling as long as they can on requests for it. So, anyway, just like, I realize that's not in your hands, but I think that it's manageable. It's that you
Yeah, okay.
Oh, yeah.
Some of the issues we have is negotiating metro districts while we're setting up treatments, potable systems, how does that potable system policy, where they have, the metro district have to have an agreement with us, so we can at least determine that the pants won't increase that potable system.
Question, I just had slow to flow into my house and, I want to get rid of, the little patch of green, ridiculous yard and xeriscape it. And she told me that there is a program that she knew of in Fort Collins where they will help you, if you get it approved, wait for that, get it approved, that they will help you remove turf and replace it with, you know, rock or mulch or whatever. And I was wondering if it's, who oversees that program? Do you guys oversee that? Is it the city? Is it the town?
If
And
it's a,
she didn't think the town of Timnath had that in place yet.
yeah, the city of Fort Collins program, their ratepayers are probably subsidizing the curve, so that it's restricted to the city of Fort Collins service area, I would say. But that's something that you guys can bring up.
We meet regularly with the city of all conservation people are aware of the program. The challenge we see is making that change permanent. So you could subsidize the removal of turf, but if you were to sell your house and somebody moved in, they could put the turf right back in. We don't have a guarantee that that change is long term. So we're reluctant to put significant money toward subsidizing turf removal. And there's nothing to say that that can be done.
Question circles back to your unforeseen problem this summer. So are you saying that will, should have developers get a little bit closer and have more meetings and avoid these unforeseen features, or that coordination between the three of you needs to prevent what happened this summer?
We regularly meet with the town and staff, talk about development activity, and this is a new topic that we're getting to the present with. How do we not only permit and approve growth, but control the rate at which it's happening, so that we all develop. And so we do meet regularly, we've been doing that for a number of years, and those conversations are very good. But there's certainly more topics that I'm talking about.
So, lovely background behind you now, which I think you touched on quite a bit, is which major water issues came to light. Your reason for setting the town of Timnath and what other issues local government be acting on now. Are there any you wanted to add at this point?
So the June 11th meeting was town staff to town leaders. It was not invited to the special district to be there. We did talk with town staff beforehand, but we were not part of that meeting.
Thank you. All right, do you want to pass something to Derek? All right, so what steps should municipalities, metro districts, homeowners associations, and businesses take for a more secure water future?
Well, I think we're all have. Water infrastructure, lot parts. Rates are going to go up. The better. It's just response. The only really way to cure that is somewhat of a paradigm shift. Start looking at what kind of environment do you want to live in, what is actually affordable where you want to live, and what kind of demand reduction. That's my general high level take.
Awesome. And if you want to pass that to Mike, more specifically, same question, but for individual homeowners, how can they be more conscientious water users?
Well, I think this is a pretty good first step, better understanding where your water comes from, who provides it. Some utilities offer, well, I should back up a second. A lot of utilities are transitioning to what some might call smart meters that allow the water provider to see more of what's going on with your usage around the clock. And like at Elko, if you're an Elko customer, you can actually log into your account, create an account, log into it, and see what your usage is. It helps with, it's leak detection. If you have a leak in your sprinkler system, you didn't even know about it, or toilet that's running on, you didn't know about it. So it creates more of an awareness. So I think that's some of the technology that's out there that's going to help people become more engaged and be better aware of what their usage is, because water's always been relatively inexpensive. It's probably one of your, well, depending on your irrigation habits, and if you have leaks or not, it's probably one of your less expensive bills on an annual basis, relative to cell phones and cable TV and internet and other things. So I think it needs to become more of a priority. I mean, obviously water is just something none of us can live without, yet it's always been kind of, I don't know, treated as if it's really should be very inexpensive, and it has. But to Eric's point, it's going to get more expensive because of all the reasons that he just brought up. There's much more demand for the raw water supplies in northern Colorado. There's the prices of raw water rights coming out of ag or the CBT we mentioned earlier have skyrocketed if you've been paying attention or in kind of in the know. It's amazing how much they've increased in value. That value is translated into the cost of new homes. Those developers, at least at Elko, they have to bring that water to us. If they're going to add demand to our system in the form of new development, they got to bring the supply. The burden is on them. And so they got to go out there and find it. Our board feels that's the proper way to go, and they don't want our customers subsidizing development. That's always been how it worked at Elko. And I think more and more people are transitioning to that one as a utility, recognize that that's a risk that should be borne by development. So backing up, I think it's, customers, water users need to learn more about where their water comes from, how it works, ask more questions, go to events like this, and just become more educated and more engaged.
Here you get the price, it's gonna go up, it's gonna go up for everybody out in this country unless you live or sit underneath the, water funnel or something. But I'm not worried so much about the price of water. I'm worried about whether the water will come out of my tap or not in 5 years. Because as we dense up across the west, here in this particular part of the west, it's going to get more and more dense. Everybody wants affordable housing. Translate that into dense condos, townhomes. There's more water that's going to come up, and at the same time, we're looking at watershed getting burned. We're looking at a warming trend, and water is going to become harder and harder to get. Environmental Mother Nature situation. So with you guys having to look back at taps, 5 years 3 to 5 years before the actual house comes out the builder's side, 5 years from now, what will that gap be like? Because of, you know, just mother nature. And that means we gotta be doing things today in towns, in communities, in HOAs, to set ourselves up so that the water demand isn't thing per lot or per acre or per home it is today. People won't be able to do it 5 years from now.
And we're seeing that now, if you look around at, particularly if you look in Fort Collins, in our neck of the woods on the north side, a lot of that new development is getting, those lots are getting small. It's getting really dense,
Right.
but a lot of those do have non-potable outdoor irrigation systems. Similar to what Eric mentioned, Elko incentivizes development through reduced requirements for the water they need to bring to the table. And they're further incentivized because of the price of water and the availability. But you make a good point, and what, you know, how do you ensure that that supply is always going to be there? There's risk with any water supply because it's coming from Mother Nature. And how do you control, how does a district, how do these 3 districts that, you know, roughly provide water to 150,000 people in northern Colorado, control what's going on in those watersheds, or even in a larger part of the, you know, the west or the, you know, this part of the world? It's difficult, but we can try to ensure through our requirements for new development that they provide an adequate supply. And that's one of the things we all do, is they have to bring more water than what, like in Elko, each account, when it's set up, when a new tap is set up, a new water service, it has an annual allotment. It's a volume of water associated with that account, with your tap, that you can use within that year. If you go over, you gotta pay more. And there's different rate structures and all kinds of things, but there's a fixed volume associated with that determines how much water that developer has to dedicate to the district. And it's on us to ensure that they satisfy not only that allotment, but for us, it's 1.5 times more than that. So if your house had 100,000 gallon annual allotment, that developer has to bring us 150,000 gallons. And the reason they do that is to try and mitigate the risk of those ups and downs that Mother Nature hits us with. And there's engineering behind it as well. It's not arbitrary. That's one of the things you can do. The other thing, the only thing that makes water work in the West, the only reason we're all here right now is because there's storage. You got to be able to catch it in the times of plenty, like last year when it was so wet and rainy. Not that we capture rainfall, but when you have opportunities to capture snow melt, and you can put it in a bucket and hold it there and use it later in years like this when it's so dry and then hot. That's key. So development, and I'm not advocating for any particular storage project, but it is a key component of what it takes to make water work in the West. Absolutely. And you can argue about the impact environmentally or not, but without storage, none of us would probably be here right now. So I don't know if that answers any of your questions or concerns, but those are just some thoughts.
Go and do your due diligence about making sure your pipes are big enough, and if you're counting on a developer to lay the pipe because that's the cost of their entry fee, you know, forcing them to get pipes in, sure that the towers are also this district filtering is working. Sure, working. But it seems like the cities have to really step up and start looking 5 years ahead and say, okay, if we're in a drought situation, we can't afford all these beautiful lakes, or we can't afford all this green stuff. We gotta go more xeriscape, or we gotta go less dense on our housing, because we, the town of Timnath, aren't just gonna get enough water for all that.
And that, Timnath is unique because it doesn't have its own Timnath water utility, obviously, is served by these three districts,
Sure.
who are all joined at the hip because all our water is treated through Soldier Canyon. It runs out through all these pipes. Some of them are shared, some of them are not, and it gets to, the homes in Timnath and among other places. And so how do you make that work a little better as you look into the future? Well, we're all going through master planning updates. Each district is working on their master plan updates, which help us look into the future. As others have said, we look at the land use planning of the town of Timnath for our particular service area and say, what's going to happen out here? What's the town projecting in terms of new development? What's the density? What's the type of use? And how much water is going to be required to serve that? Not only for the water supply, but treatment capacity, transmission capacity. We have to look at all of that stuff. And it's driven by others, not ours, other entities' land use planning. For me, it's the city of Fort Collins, the town of Timnath, and a little bit of Larimer County, some rural stuff.
All right, one more question. I got two closures.
So there's a lot of like common areas around here that get water, like a lot of times I see sprinklers running at like 12:30 in the afternoon and stuff, and I realize that's probably non-potable water that kind of falls outside of your purview. But I am thinking like systemically, when you consider like all the upstream and downstream effects of watering like 8,000 acres of sod with non-potable water, does that not still have effects on the overall supply and on like the cost of like irrigation, agricultural use and development and so forth?
All things to add at it. There's a little bit of a misnomer out there that if you have a non-potable supply, you're going to use less water. That's not necessarily true overall. Net, you may end up using more. You're using less treated water or none at all, but that doesn't guarantee that HOA or that metro district is going to do a good job of managing their irrigation. And that's completely outside of our purview, as long as they don't exceed their supply that's available to them. But it also becomes problematic for the town or the city, whoever those residents are, because those people, if that supply is squandered, and they potentially run out if they didn't manage it well, now they're going to be looking to us to backfill with treated water, and it's going to be expensive. And they're going to be screaming at us, and they're going to be screaming at the town, they're going to be screaming at the metro district or the HOA. So it's important, I think, that the towns, the cities that for these non-pot systems and these metro districts, HOAs, however they're managed, they get engaged in some of that in enforcement to ensure that things are run properly and well managed.
But does it have an immediate effect on, like costs elsewhere or supply elsewhere? Because they are watering like 7 days a week.
They would typically own their own water rights.
Yeah.
That may, as an example, maybe that development was historically a farm, and they're using the well or the ditch water rights that historically irrigated that. So they're not taking it away from somebody else. They own those water rights, and they're associated with that property, and they can use them right there. So they're not impacting others.
Mm-hmm.
You guys have anything to add?
Yeah.
That's great.
I was going to add one difference between the non-potable system. As Mike said, it's typically a well that's been on that farm historically, and that water has been used on that farm. The potable water that we provide generally doesn't come from the Timnath area. It comes from other areas that were getting that water, either the Colorado River or places further east. And so that's a regional impact of where we're taking water from, where we're putting it to. So a little difference between potable and non-potable.
Awesome. All right. So we have about 10 minutes left for a couple fun questions to start with prices. Can technology save us either running out of water or full-scale water wars?
That's an interesting question. And I think if we want to look outside of ourselves and hope that there's going to be some silver bullet that's going to come save the day, I don't think that's a good answer. I think if we look to ourselves and look to our partners and we work together, we can come up with good solutions, but it's gonna take that coordination, interaction, us with the town, us with our partners, us with our community. So I think not a reliance on technology, but a reliance on conversation, on partnerships, collaboration, that kind of thing.
You guys want to add on that? What is water board? Does Colorado have one?
Always, I think, technology-wise, a lot will be seen in the future in ag. So flood irrigation technology was what they did for a long time. They owned the water rights, it's extremely cheap, they didn't have to put in pivots, they didn't have to put a lot of money into their systems they could put. You see a lot of that still on the west slope. And not so much here, because of the west slope water is so cheap, but here it is not. It's difficult to get. So over time, I think you'll see technological benefits in agriculture that will reduce water.
I don't have a lot to add. We already talked about smart metering and that sort of thing, kind of on this small local scale. But I don't know if you're ever gonna avoid, water wars between, and it's at all levels. Around here, it's the Poudre River for us, the water rates on the Poudre River, they're migrating out of ag toward municipal, they're following the dollars. Development's buying water out of ag, nobody's stealing it, nobody's forcing farmers to go out of business, they're selling it willingly because it's worth a fortune. But not all water rights are created equal either. So some are more valuable than others, but then there's water court, you gotta take those water rights to court, and you have to change the use. There's a huge legal process that you change the use from agricultural use to a municipal use. There's a lot of fighting that goes on in there. Everybody's trying to protect their interests. So you're never gonna avoid those kind of water wars, and you can ratchet it up. It's gonna be, the east slope versus the west slope, because if you think about it, we're pulling water off the west slope that those folks were using, and it's being diverted over here for our use. Most people don't think about that, but the west slope does.
I'm from either TID or is the irrigation district, is the home district.
Right. So there's all kinds of relationships and discussions, and they're not hitting each other over the head with shovels or shooting each other in these days, but they did at one time. And it goes to the next level where it's an interstate issue, or it could even be even bigger, which is the Colorado River. With the lower basin states, California, Arizona, versus everybody up on this side. So you're always gonna have water wars. Will technology help you avoid those? I don't see it.
All right, well, now that we've talked about war and crisis and responsibilities and unforeseen things, do each of you mind sharing a little bit of what gives you hope about our current or future water situation?
Well, I think, like Mike was saying earlier, there is, I would say, large amounts of long-term planning. River hydrology money studies are being done. All the districts and all the cities in northern Colorado are revisiting their water master plans. There's talks about water sharing and infrastructure sharing now. So people are taking a different look at how things are done in the past. Perhaps it isn't so easy just to run your own district, mind your own business, put in your own infrastructure. You might have to team with people. So right now, for example, Northwell and Elko are teaming on a transmission line from a silver can treatment plant down the county line. Sharing costs, all the things that go with that. So I see a lot more of that happening in the future. That gives us hope as far as cost controls and working with people that already have some infrastructure and perhaps funding that type of.
Yeah, the flip side of that is the people that we're working with are just great people in our industry right now. Great people at the towns that we're working with across the board. We've got a great team of water leaders in this part of the state, so we can have those conversations and talk about options. And sometimes those are tough conversations because it's give and take on both sides. But we're able to have those conversations at all different levels, from two districts that might be talking to a room full of water utilities talking about options. So I think the people that we have give us hope that we can solve these problems.
pretty much just second what Eric and Chris have said. Back in the day, we were all kind of on these small little islands out here. We had Elko had its service area, and it was isolated from the city of Fort Collins. It didn't overlap. Northwell was out in the weeds. Fort Collins Loveland was down here. The cities of Fort Collins, Loveland, Windsor, Timnath, everybody's grown over the top of those service areas. And so now, I mean, we've had a relationship between these three districts that had a relationship that goes back to 1962 when the first plant was built. So we've been collaborating like none other. We've had this joint relationship for over 60 years. Now more people are starting to get in the game because these service areas are growing together. We're serving areas that, you know, once were rural, now they're becoming more and more urbanized. It requires more, I hate using this word, but I don't know what else to use, collaboration between these different entities. It's hard to go it alone these days. There's a lot of interconnects between the three districts, between the districts in the city of Fort Collins, the districts in the city of Greeley, Fort Collins, Loveland, and the city of Loveland. If there's emergency situations, you become more reliant more and more on your neighbors. So it's becoming more of a regional effort to make this water thing work. And to Chris's point, you know, you got a lot of people talking. That wasn't always the case. It used to be, this is mine and I'm going to protect it at all costs. And that's still the case to some degree when it comes to water rights in particular. But there's a lot more people that are willing to talk and collaborate. The other thing that I guess you could point to is there's a lot more people interested in water now, not just the water professional. You're all sitting here wanting to know more about water. That's an example of how things have changed. In the past, I don't think that was always the case. If you weren't in water or in ag, you just turn on the faucet and there it is. And when it's not, somebody's going to hear about it. So I give you all credit for engaging and wanting to learn more. And that's a change that I've seen in the last 20 years. So with that.
Awesome. Can you all join me in thanking our panelists for answering questions? We have water in the morning. From the shower or the tap. Awesome. So thank you. Reminder, we have no forum next month. It's September. Be on the lookout for our October forum and our jazz evening pancake benefit. And also thank you for showing up and coming together for 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's not for call, but we're not calling slow. We're back in 2001. Extremely valuable. Oh, yeah. Martin said, 2003, at 36. No, for they brought in what were his firms, what to do, everybody provided proper manner. And they put up what they put up. And problems with land. People said, well, we're gonna provide that, and we'll just do those here. Then you step back and think about, wait a minute, we gotta maintain it. The HOA, maintain this little patch of grass. So the consensus for the city of Fort Collins, let's just take the damn stuff out, just mow over it, let frame come along, it'll green up again. Don't worry about this island, little rock and cedar skate out in the middle of the HOA. So I can say, that's a big meeting. I forgot a lot of the meeting, but it made more sense when they said they should have picked with this zero. Then you're all right. So they thought, well, just put zeros. Well, they added cost and maintenance. HOA, take care of the plants, water the plants, weed the plants, fall, spring, every that is the cost of the HOA. So that makes sense. So then the 33 inches note came along and never heard everything.
There used to be where. Homes. They recycle water. Pipes.
Soapy water.
Oh.
Hours and everything.
Yeah.
That's a state program. Or just- We don't have a total control. It didn't turn my on, but they can't say, hey, we have some issue for us. Like someone else is kind of down. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
The amount of.
It's all.
Well, you were there at that meeting.
I missed that.
That's a big meeting. Really good job.
We go with it there.
We recovered in one storm.
Oh, yeah.
Back from the brink.
That's,